According to the National Center for Drug Abuse, over 165 million Americans ages 12 and up are currently abusing drugs or alcohol. Of those 165 million Americans, there is a mom, dad, sister, brother, wife, husband, son, daughter, or grandparent praying and pleading that they would stop. Addiction is a subject most people don't like to talk about and is kept behind closed doors. But the Finding Hope podcast will bring light to the subject and give families that are living in shame, guilt, hopelessness, fear, worry, and anger tools and education to find strength, peace, happiness, joy, and hope. Hello, I'm Amy LaRue, Finding Hope Coordinator for Hope is Alive Ministries and your host for this Finding Hope podcast. At Hope is Alive, our mission is to radically change the lives of drug addicts, alcoholics, and those who love them. We do this through our intentional next level sober living homes and faith-based support groups for the loved ones of addicts called Finding Hope. Thank you for joining us today. I just want to give you a friendly reminder that our retreats are up and going. We only have 2 retreats left this year, and they're almost full. So if you're interested in joining us in Colorado Springs or Lake Junaluska, be sure to learn more at fhretreat.com. I also want to remind you about our upcoming Hope After Loss retreat in September. There's still several spots available for that one, and you can learn more at halretreat.com, halretreat.com. I'm also excited to announce that our 3rd annual Run for Hope registration is now open. This race is a time to honor and remember those who have lost their lives to the impact of addiction, while we also break the stigma around addiction. So join us bringing hope, awareness, and community together. You can learn more at runforhoperace.com. But Darcy, speaking of Run for Hope, I know this is one of your favorite events that we do in our organization. So we share a little bit more about why Run for Hope is so impactful for you.
I've gotten to share a couple of times over the last couple of weeks what it means to me for Run for Hope. I shared it with my group last night. And it's just a special time for me. It's one of my first events that I got to be a part of at Hope is Alive. And it's when I first started to be able to honor my mom and remember her for who she was, not the disease that took her. And my kids never got to meet my mom. And so it's a way for me to share her passion for life, her love, and just talk about their Nana and how great of a human being she was despite the disease that took her. And I get a little layer of healing every year. I think I cry more every year. I've cried every time I've shared about it just because I hate this disease and the impact it's made in my life and my kids' life, but I'm so thankful for the opportunity to honor those that we've lost to this disease because they're not the disease that took them. There's so much more.
Absolutely. And we have a new location this year. So we are going to be in Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Weatherford, Oklahoma, and then
Colorado Springs, Colorado.
So we're real excited to be bringing it to a new location. But then we also have our virtual option. And that one, we're getting registration after registration on that one. And so one of our biggest teams, Team Grinch, they're ahead and getting so many people signed up. So you don't have to be in one of those locations to participate.
Right.
We want you guys, no matter where you are, whether Hawaii, we have people in Hawaii already signed up. No matter where you are, we want you to be a part of this event, this virtual event and we'll send you the shirts, we'll send you the medals, all the things, and we'll send you the list of the ones that we're honoring because we want you to know the impact this race is having and for us to break this stigma and to honor those we've lost, but also celebrate those that are in recovery and the work that they're doing in that. And so let's just bring this to all the states. Wouldn't that be cool if we had a virtual race in every state?
That would be amazing.
That would be so cool. We'll have to set that up as a goal, how many states can we be in this year? So,
I love that.
So learn more.
sign up, sponsor, honor your loved one.
Yes.
Even if you're not going to be at one of these virtual races or in-person races, if you're doing virtual, we still want to honor your loved one. So you can do all of that and learn more at runforhoperace.com. But Darcy, so we're excited about that.
Yeah.
But our topic today is one of those that people all the time when we call people on the phone, they say, I know I'm enabling. And so I feel like that can be like a buzzword around our community, enabling. And so we're going to actually be talking about enabling. We're talking about them in our meetings.
Yes.
You talked about it last night in your meeting. I'm talking about it tonight in my meeting. And so I think so many times we hear the word enabling. I remember when I first started going to Finding Hope, people would use the words boundaries. Well, I kind of know what boundaries are. They would use the word codependency. And to be honest, I don't even know what codependency is, but I guess I might be codependent. I don't know if you're telling me I am.
Right.
And then they use the word enabling. And I'm like, what is enabling? Like, truly. And I feel like sometimes we just throw that word out there. But I think we really have to understand what enabling is. And if we're an enabler and we can admit to that, like, how can we shift it so that we're not enabling?
Right.
Because if we say we're enabling, we know that obviously that maybe that's becoming a burden or a barrier to our loved one finding recovery. And so we're just going to be talking about that. And we were talking a little bit before we jumped on the podcast how enabling can look different as a spouse. It can look different as a parent. It can look different as maybe an adult and you're an adult child and your parent is struggling with addiction. And enabling can look different. Maybe it's your child. Maybe your child's in high school. Maybe they're 20. Maybe they're 50. Yeah. And so just know we do understand it looks different.
Right.
And so, but I think what we first need to do is understand the definition of enabling. So can you share with us what the definition of enabling is?
Yes. So the definition of enabling is doing for others what they can and need to do for themselves. Unwheedling strokes the fires of addiction by providing resources, preventing natural consequences.
Absolutely. Preventing natural consequences. And I think that's the key right there. And sometimes we hear in our meetings, well, I thought I was helping. And that's so true because you have that. I'm helping them. I don't, all this stuff. And so once you realize your helping isn't helping, you might look back and think it's enabling. And I have this definition. It's not even on our screen. Like enabling, just like you said, is doing for others what they can and should be able to do for themselves. So I always tell people, okay, I'm 42 years old. What does a typical 42-year-old, what can they do for themselves?
Right.
What should they be able to do for themselves, right?
Yeah.
What about a 20-year-old? So you have to kind of think about that. Look at your other children. If it's your child, like what are your other children able to do? And I do understand you have to factor in their mental health and, there's different layers to that. And so what they should and could. And then helping means doing for them what they honestly probably can't do.
Right.
Or, so you have to think about that. Is this something they should and could be able to do if they weren't struggling with a substance?
Yeah.
And so if the answer is yes, then you need to think, okay, then I probably shouldn't do it. I'm not helping them. I'm enabling them. We had one of my meetings, it's been several years ago, we had some of our residents. We've had some of them, come on the podcast recently too. And she said something when my mom, you used the word like when my mom stopped helping me, is when I finally got in recovery. And I changed the verbiage. It's like, actually, when she stopped enabling you, she started helping you.
Yeah, that's good.
And so when we stop enabling, we're actually helping them.
Yes.
And so I think that's something we have to remember as well.
Yeah.
But why do we do it? Why? Like, we know we probably shouldn't be doing it, or maybe we didn't know we were doing it. And we think when we start to look back like, oh my gosh, I was enabling. So why do we enable, Darcy?
Yeah, a lot of times we enable because we want to help our loved one, like you said. I think a lot of times we think, oh, we're not enabling because we're not buying them alcohol. We're not taking them to where they want to go, but we're helping them in other aspects because we love them. Like for me, an example for that is when my ex-husband would go out, like he'd just want to go drink. He would go out and drive around. I knew he was driving. So I would track him. And if he stopped somewhere, I knew he was asleep in his car. I would go get him out of his car, put him in my car, drive him home, have a friend go with me to pick up his car and bring it home. I was like helping him because I loved him. I didn't want him to get in trouble. I didn't want him to get caught. So I thought I was helping him because I loved him.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes we do it just to keep the peace too. Like, okay, we just want to keep the peace. We don't like the storm that's brewing. So we want to keep the peace. And like you were saying, protect them. Like we're protecting them. We're putting this bubble. We don't want them to get arrested.
Right.
Like you knew he shouldn't be out drinking and driving. His life's at stake as well as others are.
Yes.
And so it's like, so I don't want him to be drinking and driving. I don't want him to get caught, but I'm going to go rescue him. I'm going to protect him and go rescue him and also kind of keep the peace in our home through that too, right?
Yeah.
And then a lot of time we think we can fix it.
Yes.
If we are doing this, if we're helping, and I'm using like air quotes on that if you can't see me, if we're helping, that goes into that codependency, right? We're going to fix this. We're going to fix this problem. We're going to figure it out for them. And so we're going to do all this stuff for them. And so that's a lot of the times. And it like I said, maybe you got to give yourself grace. And I say that all the time. And so, but once you realize you have that eye opening, like I am enabling, that's when you have to start processing, okay, how can I change this? And so as you guys are listening to this and thinking, okay, I am an enabler, I want you to really like take this podcast to heart and really think about, what do I need to do to change? Because we say nothing changes
if nothing changes.
If nothing changes. And the change starts with us, right? And so, and that's that change of enabling. I've had some people ask about interventions and stuff. And, you know, we actually have some interventionists on staff now. And one of the things I've heard is I always ask people, are you enabling? Do you have boundaries? Are you stuck in that cycle of codependency? Because when we enable too, Darcy, it's like there's that cushion. That there's still a cushion for them to fall on.
Yes.
They still have a safety place, right? A safety net to fall on. And so why would they seek recovery if they still have that?
Right.
If they still have that. And then I even say maybe it's just that little bit of cushion. Like what's that little bit of cushion that you're still giving them?
Yeah.
And so thinking through that. And so as you're listening, you know, maybe you might even have to pause this and just pray and like, Lord, let me see where my enabling behavior is causing a barrier to allowing them to seek recovery.
Yes, that's so good. Yeah.
And so what are some of the effects that happen because we're enabling?
Yeah, it shields them from experiencing the full impact of the consequences of their behavior. You know, because when they're in their addiction, their behavior can sometimes be have legal issues, and so, or they lose their home and stuff like that. And so when we're enabling, we're shielding them from getting those consequences of whatever behaviors they're acting out in.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that. As a spouse, one of the things I would do with my husband is I wouldn't check his phone for like, you know, things, but the only thing I would check would be watching his messages from work because I'm like, he can't lose his job.
Yes.
Right? Like, because we have a mortgage to pay, we have bills to pay, we have all this stuff. So I would make sure, I would be checking his phone for work related stuff, making sure things were getting done, making sure he was responding to his boss, all these things. But that's a way as a spouse, I was enabling, but I thought I was protecting our family. And I was in a sense.
Right.
But he wasn't able to feel that full consequence. And that's where also it's like, okay, was I trusting God in this too?
Right.
You know, I know you've recently gone through something and it's like, okay, God, like you are going to take care of me, and trusting that and giving it to him in those situations.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, okay, no, God, I'll take care of this. I will check his emails. I will check his text messages, making sure his work's getting done so that he doesn't lose his job. So we still get a paycheck and all of that.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it is like, was making sure I didn't want him to feel that consequence because I thought it would have a ripple effect.
Yes.
In a sense. But again, he wasn't able, maybe if he lost his job, he would have sought recovery sooner.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think enabling, what are some behaviors? What does that look like? I think we can say that, but again, like, what is that? I know we gave the definition, but what might be some of the things that enabling looks like?
A lot of times it's making excuses for their behavior. That's like with church. Like maybe they overslept and they didn't make it because they were out drinking the night before or using. And so, he's at home sick.
Yeah. Oh, that would be me all the time.
He doesn't feel good. Or family get-togethers. I remember when my ex-husband went to treatment the first time. I didn't tell anybody. And so that we had family events coming up. One of my nephew was dedicated. There was Easter, and I never said anything to anybody. I'm just like, he's not here. Not talk about it or make excuses for why he's not there. Make excuses for like you said, employers, making sure it's all okay and everything like that. Just any type of way to cover up their behavior or how they're feeling the next day.
Yeah. So, and it's like they become great liars and manipulators. And then somehow we are starting to take that on too, is the lies and covering it up and trying to protect him. But that's also when we feel the shame.
Yes.
When we are feeling that shame is the excuses, like, like, what did I do to make my husband an alcoholic? I thought it was something I did.
Right.
And so we start making up those excuses to do that. And sometimes we do it to also protect them in a sense,
absolutely.
And I know this is a disease,
yes.
and society isn't there yet.
Correct.
And so we do make up the excuses. Now I say you can go talk to him. And so that's what good. I would encourage you. Like, instead of making the excuses, why don't you ask them?
Yeah.
And then the lie's not on you. It's, if they choose to lie, that's on them.
Right. That's good.
That, helps your conscience.
Yeah.
I think one thing that we hear is they bail the addict out, whether that's from jail.
Yeah.
But it's not just from jail. And I think sometimes we think that, sometimes they need to sit in jail, even, I've heard so many people, well, they promised they would go to recovery this time. They made all these amazing promises.
Right.
And so, but sometimes it's paying their tickets.
Yes.
Bailing them out of that, paying other debts that they might have occurred.
Yeah.
It's providing jobs for them.
Yes.
And doing, all that stuff, providing the jobs. So we had one of our Finding Hope, and we actually have a podcast, one of our very first podcasts.
Yes.
So go, if you haven't listened to it, it's with Karen, and she shares about enabling, and she could probably wear a crown for it, and she would be okay saying that.
Yes.
But she'll tell the story, and on the podcast, she even tells us, well, he worked for selling roofs, so they got a new roof. Then he lost that job because of his addiction.
Yeah.
Well, then he started selling insurance. Well, so they changed their insurance policies.
Yes.
And then he lost that one. And then he started selling windows. So they got new windows.
Yeah.
And so that's part of that bailing out too, that enabling. And she knows now. And obviously they don't do that anymore.
Right.
Again, she thought she was helping him. Do they really need new windows? No. The different things. But it's like, no, I'm going to help them out. Maybe if I help him out, he meets his quota, he'll stop.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah. Yes.
What are some other things we might do?
Blame others for the addicted person's behaviors. I know with my ex-husband, I would blame how other people treated him for the way he was acting, or a bad day at work, blaming that for him, choosing to drink, just anything I could, or even like myself, blaming myself. Oh, if I didn't talk to him that way, or if the house would be cleaner, or if the kids would be listening or quieter when he got home, all the things, anything to not put the blame on him, and why he chose, to drink.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think some other things we've talked about on here is when we become ways that we can enable the caretakers is, again, doing things for them that they should be able to do for themselves. Right. Rather, making the doctor's appointments, making sure, I would be like, okay, you need to go, because my husband at that one point, he had to blow into a breathalyzer and send it to his counselor. And so I was making sure he was doing that. No, that's not mine, because him doing that, which he, by the way, learned how to trick the breathalyzer, but we won't get into that on this story, this podcast. Yeah. But because I'm like, I didn't want him to get in trouble. I'm like, that's great. But that's also where my mind was.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh no, he needs to do it. Because again, I was trying to protect him, caretake him. But he should have been able to do that for himself and make the doctor's appointments and do all of that and go to his counseling appointments. And so we have to remember, like, there's, again, that fine line, like, are we helping or are we enabling?
Right.
And are we doing why are we doing it? I think sometimes we have to ask ourselves, why are we doing it?
That's a good question to ask.
Like, are we doing it? Like, and we have to remember, like, sometimes the question around, like, Christmas time, like, I know I shouldn't give them money. What can I do? Well, one of our Finding Hopes, actually, she started doing every year, like, okay, I probably would have spent $200 or whatever the amount is. So she started putting that money into an account for when her loved one was ready for help. She was going to use that money to pay for his treatment. Yeah. And so there are different ways. Like, I want to give them a gift, all of that. And it's like, okay, are we going to be resentful if they don't take it the right way? Are we going to be resentful if they go sell those gift cards we give them? Right. Are we going to be resentful if they go pawn whatever gift we get? And so you've got to think about it that way too. Like, where is your heart? Where, just knowing, are we helping them or are we enabling them?
Yeah, that's good.
And some, like we talked about, giving money when asked. Oh, but I need some groceries. Yeah. Mom, I'm hungry. I can't go get food. Can you just give me some money for this? Or here's a big one. I need gas money. Yes. I can't get to work without gas money. So what can they do instead when maybe their loved one's asking for money for groceries or for gas money or what?
Yeah. So I've heard some people saying, like, oh, I'll meet you at the grocery store and we can shop together and I'll pay for your groceries. Oh, you need gas? I'll meet you at the gas station and I'll pay to put money in your gas. I'm not going to give you the money, but if this is what you actually need, I'll do this for you instead of giving you the cash or a gift card or something like that. That way it's, exactly where the money is going, because let's be honest, if they need money, they're going to find a way to, get the money that they need for their drugs or alcohol. So if they absolutely need it.
And sometimes I say, if they can figure out a way to get their drug of choice, they'll go any length. They can figure out a way to get that gas. Yes. They can figure out a way to get groceries. They can figure out that way. But I understand too, like, as a mama's heart, like, you don't want to think your child's starving, all of that. And so, meet them at the grocery store or do a grocery. Nowadays, you can do grocery pickup, that's, whether you live in Oklahoma and your child's in California, you can do it that way too.
And you have food delivered to them too. Yeah. There's so many different ways to get them actually what they're asking for instead of giving them money.
So I also know, like, paying for a car. Yes. And I hear that a lot, especially when they move into sober living. Yes. So you have to remember, so sometimes this is while they're in their active addiction, but enabling can continue into their recovery. Right. And it can actually harm them more than help them again. I will never forget, like, oh, I got them a car because they said they couldn't get to work and they're sober. It's like, okay, but they also now can leave a little bit easier. And so again, it's like, are you going to be resentful if they use this car or, and in sober livings, they have people in their sober living. Yes. They can also get a bike. There's other ways you can ask people for rides, all the things. And so it's like, that is also can be enabling behavior and is paying for their car. Again, you talked about their gas, all the stuff like that. And so it's trying to think through again, how can I help but not enable in that sense?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So paying for their phone sometimes too.
Yes.
And sometimes people, and I understand this, and again, it's one of those, like, thinking through, like, where's your boundary, and are we going to be resentful if we do this? Like, if I don't pay for their phone, I won't be able to hear from them. And I get it. Maybe that's where it is. Well, that's okay. Like, just know, like, don't be resentful if they're not answering their phone. Correct. If they're using their phone for drug deals, if they're doing all the different things that they could be. And so thinking through that as well.
Yeah. And they'll find a way to get in contact with you if they don't have a phone. They can go into a hospital and ask to use the phone. They go to police station and ask to use the phone. And if they're in sober living, they're like most of the people there have one until they can get one themselves.
Yeah.
They can have a way to contact you if they absolutely need to.
Here's another one I hear, Darcy. I can't kick them out. I need them living in my house. And so this is different for all levels. Again, whether it's a teenager, whether it's a spouse. Like my husband and I are on the same mortgage. Like it's his house and my house, right? And I get that. But if it's adult child, well, I don't want them to overdose. You think you can save them. But my thing is always, are you watching them 24/7?
Right.
What about when they go to the bathroom? I mean, and the reality is I've heard overdoses happening in the bathrooms, in their bedrooms, on their front porch, and so it's just remembering like even though they're in our house, we can't watch them 24/7, making sure, and that's exhausting, and you don't need that. Like that's where we talk about finding hope, like detaching from that chaos. Like instead of detaching, you're in the middle of the chaos right there, thinking you can protect them. And again, we're not God.
Right. We can't save them. Only He can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's good.
Anything else you can think of that, there's a whole list.
There's tons of things. We could go on and on. I just think those are the key ones to talk about, and I've done all of them.
Yeah.
So it's like, we're not immune to these at all. And so.
Yeah. And like I said, I think we have to remember, again, like, where's our enabling behavior after they get sober?
Yeah.
Because then it kind of shifts, because then we want them to stay sober. I'm going to do this so they stay sober. But they need to learn how to, again, be on their own as a 30-year-old, how to be successful. And that's what their sober living there is, those accountability from those other brothers and sisters living in their homes. That's what I love with Hope is Alive. Like they teach them how there's people that show up at our homes with just a bag of clothes.
Yeah.
Maybe only 2 or 3 shirts.
Sometimes a box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but our homes, those guys and those girls come and love on them and will help them and guide them. And, now a lot of them all have cars on their own. They're buying their own cars.
Yeah.
And it's just so incredible.
Yeah. Because they set goals and everything. And so, I think a lot of times we also enable out of fear.
That's good.
And so it's just something like that just popped into my head as we're sitting here, as like, I enabled out of fear of the consequences that he might get. And so we have to remember to surrender them every day, and even surrender, like, Lord, where do you want me to help? Is my helping enabling? And just know, don't live in that fear. God's got them. He loves them more than we do. And He's going to get them the help that they need when they're ready. And we just have to remember to surrender them.
And it's our enabling, again, being a barrier to them seeking recovery.
Yeah.
And so, it's like, okay, what can I do to replace it? And, like if you're wanting to enable, like I said, maybe you make an account for them, you start putting that money in, or, what can you do for yourself? So when you want to go do something, or maybe you want to go volunteer somewhere, like maybe that's what you need to do to replace how it's hard to get out of that cycle. We've talked about that. Like we're in our own cycle of, we're used to this chaos, this cycle, but it also doesn't feel good, but we know the cycle. And so it's like stepping out of that cycle, putting up those boundaries, saying my favorite sentence, N-O period, no. And so, when they are on the phone, but Mom, I'm so hungry, blah, blah, blah. No, I love you. You can call me when you're ready for help. Bye. And, and hanging up or not engaging in the text messages. And, maybe you have to block them for a little bit. And I know you've had to do that with your ex-husband some. And so it's one of those is setting up those boundaries around some of these enabling behaviors.
And it's okay to do those things. I think a lot of times we get, again, in that fear, it's going to make them mad, or they're going to get upset with me. If it's protecting you and your peace, put that boundary in place. Turn off your phone, block their phone number, say N-O period. It's okay to do those things.
Yeah. And so I know this is a lot, and some people are like, oh, this spoke straight to me. And some people are like, I just can't do that, Amy. I just can't do that, Darcy. Like, it's easier for you to say because you've been on this road for 10 plus years. You've been in recovery doing it. It's not easy,
It's not.
and still today, I even look at my own kids who, my minors that live in my house. No, they're not using, but I always think, I have that mindset now. Like, am I enabling them right now? Like, even those kind of things.
Yeah.
And, don't joke around about it either. Like, oh, I'm enabling. Well, if you know that, like, what's the why behind it? And is it allowing your loved one to feel those consequences? And so I want you guys to just pray about it this week. Pray like, Lord, where am I enabling? Where am I being that barrier? And give me the strength to step away from that.
Yeah.
And like we've said on this podcast time after time, our recovery is just one step at a time.
Yes.
Maybe it's that one enabling maybe you can think of 5 things you're doing.
Right.
Maybe it's 3, maybe it's 10. And so what's that one thing that you can stop doing this week? And we're here to support you.
Yes.
Call us. I actually had a spouse call me last week because she was out Finding Hope. She's like, okay, Amy, can you talk me through this? And I was so proud of her. She goes, I've had your number for like 2 months and I finally am calling you. I'm like, I'm so glad you did, because that's what we want to do. We want to help support you through that, talk through it. Like, okay. And she had some aha moments just through, not with me really giving her advice or anything, just listening and asking her those questions.
Right.
And so that's what we're here for. And so think about that. What's that one thing that you're doing for your loved one that you keep saying, I know I shouldn't be doing this for them. Then I would encourage you to stop it and reach out, journal about it. You talk about journaling a lot, and pray through it. Get the support. If you're in a Finding Hope meeting, reach out to your leader, reach out to your hope dealer. But we're here to support you through this journey.
Yes.
Any other thoughts or questions before we?
I don't think so. It's just so good. Like, we could talk about it all day.
We could.
It's another one. And there's no perfect way to do it. Just remember to seek the Lord and ask him, like, what area do you need to change?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so that is our challenge today, right, Darcy, is trying to identify what's that one change I can do today. And so that's our challenge for this week. And even practice saying no. Maybe it's not to your addicted loved one. Maybe it's to a friend or to a church, like saying, oh, I'm going to sign up for all these committees.
Yes.
Practice saying no.
Right,
like maybe maybe you just need to practice saying no to something else so that you have the courage to say no to your loved one when that situation arises.
Right. Yeah.
So thank you guys so much for joining us. And you can learn more about Finding Hope and to get connected to one of our meetings at findinghope.today. But before you go, we would love for you to give us a 5-star review, share this on social media, and subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss our next hope-filled episode. Thanks again, Darcy, for joining us on this episode of Finding Hope. And remember, you're not alone. It's not your fault. There is hope.